And welcome to another week of Libertarians at Large. My name is Eric Razak, and this is where we discuss the week in news and express a libertarian point of view on the goings-on in our nation and the world. We welcome your comments and questions in the chat box, so feel free to comment regularly. We may share your comment live on the air. This week, I'm joined with my fellow Libertarian at Large, Laura Ebke. How are you doing?
Well, Eric, I'm improving. I've been gone the last couple of weeks, and my voice is finally starting to return.
Well, I have to say, I am glad to have you back on the air this week, and I'm glad to hear that you are recovering as well. This week, also, our special guest is John Stafford Stanley from Kernersville, North Carolina, a fellow Tar Heel of mine. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing fantastic, and I appreciate y'all having me on tonight.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. You are running to be Alderman in Kernersville. Tell us about the race.
Well, it's been interesting this year. Last election, there was nobody ran. There was one write-in within the last 5 days. And this election cycle, we have 11 candidates running for 5 seats. So it's been fun, and it's been grueling. I think we're all tired right now.
I'm sure. 11 people running for 5 seats. I mean, that's still a great percentage of individuals. It's almost 50% of the people running are actually going to get seated, which is awesome. I'm sure you're really confident. What do you feel like your win percentage is?
Oh, I'm gonna knock it out the park.
That's what it is. That's the libertarian in you. You know you're gonna take it out of the park right there. I love it. Yeah. I absolutely love it. I'm going to bring up your website here so everyone can already on the ticker at the bottom there. You can see John's website, but we're also going to show John's website as well. So I encourage everyone to actually type in the URL. But if you're somewhere where you're just watching, I have the website here for you as well. I know you're doing quite the man around town. You're doing quite a few events. So I see that you have a Meet John button. I love to see that. Donate now, obviously, and North Carolina does allow people from around the country to donate to the campaign. So if you are watching, I definitely suggest you clicking on that Donate Now button if you so desire. It's right there for you. Make sure that link works for them. That'll be great. And then if you are in North Carolina, you can even get involved. John, are you looking for volunteers outside of North Carolina as well? I mean, are you going to be doing phone banking or anything like that?
We're not doing any phone banking, but for every weekend up until the election, we're going to be door knocking, and then we're going to be doing setting people up at the polling stations. So if anybody wants to travel to North Carolina, or if anybody's around in the area, we definitely need some hands on deck.
That is absolutely awesome. So yeah, you must be developing a pretty good book of volunteers as well. That's really great.
So John, one of the questions I always ask when I talk to candidates around the country, not only as Eric suggested, can you receive donations from out of state, but are there campaign limits in terms of how much somebody can give you?
To be honest, I think it's around $100 or so, but I don't think there's really a limit. That's just my treasurer doesn't want to do much work.
Oh, okay.
No, my treasurer he's fantastic. I owe him a lot, and but I don't think there's really a limit that we could reach. I mean, if we could reach that limit, let's go for it.
Yeah, when I was when I was running for the legislature the second time around, I was visiting Colorado, and I had this guy come up to me, hand me a $20 bill, and ask if I have a penny. That's okay. Yeah, here's a penny. Apparently, Colorado had a rule that you can't. Colorado's rule was you can take up to $19.99 in cash donations without reporting. Nebraska has a $250 limit without reporting, and so that's why I ask these questions.
So here in North Carolina, you could take a $50 cash donation and not have to report it, or you can group report it. However, an individual in North Carolina, they just upped it this year to $5,600 per election cycle, and
Shouldn't
now
be
we
a
are in
problem.
the general cycle. So $5,600 is the max individual contribution that an individual can give.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, I know these things off the top of my head, so
I try to stay away from all the numbers.
Yeah, campaign finance is one of those things that just kind of fascinate me and has for years and years and years. So, it's even though I'm not a treasurer on any campaign, nor am I actively looking to be a treasurer, I am licensed or registered with the North Carolina State Board of Elections as a state and federal treasurer. So just because I'm interested in all the federal laws and yeah, I'm one of those weird people. But yeah, I digress. So what are some of the big issues in Kernersville, North Carolina?
Well, luckily right now we're kind of slow. The biggest issues are our infrastructure. We're growing at a tremendous rate, and our infrastructure it's kind of struggling to keep up. And
that's a lot of America right now. I mean, that's not an unusual story. What are some of the areas of infrastructure that you see that are being strained in Kernersville more than others?
I mean, I don't know of a road that doesn't have a pothole in it right now. They're trying to do a good job. I'll give them that. They're trying, but there's not the involvement of the people. There's not any representation of people, letting them know that there's problems. We don't have the capabilities at the moment to handle 26,000 residents driving every day to work.
Yep.
And that's just the plain truth of it.
It's amazing. We've had a lot of individuals who are currently elected libertarians on city councils around the country, and potholes, storm sewers are constant conversations that we have with many of our guests, and it's amazing. There are so many private sector solutions to fixing roads. The most famous, obviously, is Domino's Pizza, who just comes in with a truck and dumps asphalt, tamps it down, makes sure that they've done it right, and then spray paints a Domino's advertisement over it, which I think is absolutely ingenious. UPS and FedEx both have grants to city councils to actually get potholes fixed and all of that stuff. A lot of the city councils, they just don't know that these programs or these offers from major corporations and exist. And I think that's something that's very underutilized, and we as libertarians need to be partnering up with corporations to make sure that our cities and our communities are well taken care of.
Yeah, most definitely. We actually got Amazon to come in here. Mm-hmm. So we have huge amounts of tractor trailer traffic coming through all the time. So if we could team up with them to do something like that, that would be tremendous for this community.
But those are the problems that go beyond pothole repair and things like that. When you start talking about bringing big businesses in, that requires major infrastructure, new roads and things like that, and that's always a challenge. when you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we pay for this? Because Amazon may be willing to kick in some of the cost for some of the stuff, but they're probably not going to build a new 4-lane highway for you, that's 20 miles long or whatever. So
exactly, and that's really what we're struggling with right now. Is we're developing at such a rate that we're bringing in big companies like FedEx and Amazon, like I just mentioned, and it's really the taxpayer footing the bill on that.
And a lot of times the state of North Carolina makes deals where you have to give them tax breaks and all sorts of stuff, and it's not so much the state that suffers, but it's the local communities, because they're not having to pay their property taxes or other deferments that really takes the money out of your pocket. Of course, the state doesn't take a hit on it, but you guys do, and that's really the unfortunate aspect.
Economic development is something that that boggles the mind, and is really frustrating for libertarians, I think, at local levels, because you want to see that economic development, but you don't necessarily want to pay for that economic development through taxpayer dollars. And how do you encourage without without causing real problems? So, I mean, I think that's I would guess that for most people who are elected to city offices, municipal offices, and county offices, that's the great barrier to being a real libertarian, if you will, because there's not a good answer to some of those things that really fits neatly in the libertarian box.
That is very true. It's very, very true. But I mean, obviously, there is a lot of opportunities to push the needle forward. Sure. You may not make that grand sweeping victory that we all want, but I mean, you definitely can push the needle forward in a lot of ways and make some amazing cost cutting or smart decisions while being in office. And I think that's where it needs to start.
And I think sometimes you got to, and I don't mean to jump all over John here, but I think sometimes you got to pick your battles. You've got to decide, if economic development is important, then maybe what you would do is you push back against, an increased police presence, or, you decide which battles you're going to fight this time around.
Yeah, most definitely. The main thing that I'm seeing doing all this stuff is we're putting these places in the EJT zones. So they're not even really in Kernersville, but they are within our jurisdictions that the county and the state has provided us to oversee.
Yep. So
it's like, it's just hurting on us, and
you see no benefit.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Welcome to state politics.
Of course, the argument would be that if it's somebody that's within your zone, that a new big business that comes in there, even though they're outside of your city limits, that the likelihood is that they'll have some people that'll move in there, that they'll spend money in your community. I mean, it's all a balancing act, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got 4,000 new homes that are projected to go up. I guess whenever lumber goes down, but
it's slowly coming back down. Yeah. Slowly coming back down.
Yeah, no, it is that's a conundrum, because we all love the free market, but the free market lags a little bit sometimes, and so how you adjust to those kinds of things is complicated. Well, especially as a city planner, if you will.
So this is where I'll give North Carolina credit on this one, because they've gotten out of the way of the construction industries. Because it used to be that all of our lumber in North Carolina had to be graded to U.S. standards. However, because of the lumber shortage, because of plywood shortages. The state engineering codes have gotten out of the way of lumber and are allowing European grading to come in, which is vastly different than U.S. grading, and are allowing residential construction with European lumber, which is nowhere near as restrained as U.S. lumber is currently. So North Carolina is seeing a reduction in our lumber prices here in this state faster than other parts of the country because we're allowing other sources of lumber to come in. And the engineering department's kind of, okay, this is unusual times, and we're going to just let it fly. So it's actually really good. I mean, I'll give North Carolina credit, and they've gotten out of the way of the construction trades and the building industry, at least on the residential aspects, for progress and for construction.
Yeah, and that's really good for Kernersville because half of us are construction workers and the other half are real estate agents.
Well, unfortunately, you guys are a little bit far from me, but I am a home inspector. So, yeah, no, trust me. It's one of the reasons why I follow the lumber industry so closely as well, because I'm tied very closely to new construction. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Amazon, like you said, just opened up a facility out by you. And then Patricia also is over by the Amazon that just opened up in Syracuse, New York, and it's all robotic automation. So are you seeing that a lot of the automation is also coming into the facility by you?
No, because most of us we're right on 40. We're right off of 85, basically. So we're a hub spot. We have to have people shoving boxes on the trucks. Understood.
Yeah. It's an interesting balance with automation and actual people. So I'm glad to hear that they are utilizing the local workforce. That's actually really nice to hear. So some of the crazy things I've heard in the news this last week, and I would love to get everyone's opinion of this. Has anyone heard about the interesting story going on in Missouri right now? There was a paper who was doing investigative journalism like any good newspaper should be doing. And in Missouri, they have teacher report cards. So you get to see what your teacher is graded on, so you can make sure that your child is getting some sort of quality of education. Well, the state of Missouri, on every single teacher's subpage, organized it by utilizing the social security numbers of the teachers. So if you were at all adept at looking at HTML code, you could get the social security number of every single teacher in Missouri. Newspaper found this out and decided that they were going to hold the story for a week to 2 weeks and notify the state so the state could rectify the situation before they went public with it. So I think the state, this newspaper did the right thing because they're protecting the privacy of all the teachers. And now, instead of the state going ahead and fixing it, the state is now suing the journalist and the nutpaper under the newly minted domestic terrorism for hacking and for domestic terrorism. And this goes exactly to show that this law can be weaponized and really used very, very poorly in a very scary manner. And here's a newspaper, an organization trying to do the right thing, and now they're paying the ultimate price for it. I think it's absolutely disgusting. What does everyone else think about this?
It's a very good way of saying, oh, it's their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's crazy. That the state didn't just say oops and fix it, and it's to the credit of the journalists. And actually in Missouri, they have a long tradition of a very good journalism school at the University of Missouri. So they've got a long tradition of quality journalism in their state. But it's crazy that that the state wouldn't just admit that they messed up.
Yeah.
Because now everybody, if they haven't fixed it, now anybody who is at all adept at, and it's really not that tough, I don't think, because I mean, I think if you've got, I don't know, just about any browser, if
you can look at the source code.
You can find the source code, and I mean, I'm not techie, but I know that much.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not difficult to, I mean, I have not checked to see if they fixed it. I'm not going to put my IP address on their digital fingerprints. But, I mean, if it's as simple as the journalist was saying, I mean, this is not something that any advanced hacker would be necessary for. This is anybody with Chrome or Internet Explorer or Edge or whatever they want to call it now can easily do. The tools are provided to every single individual. So yeah,
you could do that on accident.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep. Yeah,
I actually have done that on accident before.
Your average 14-year-old with computer skills can pull source code.
Exactly. I've done it by pushing the wrong button and thinking, okay, how did I get all of this? And I don't know what to do then, but
yeah, no, I mean, and if you have half a brain, you can figure out what you're looking at. I mean, it's not difficult at all. You just have to take the time to actually look at what you're looking at, and then you can very easily figure out what it is. It's really bad. I mean, this is really
well,
bad.
enough 9-digit numbers would, it's like, oh, I wonder what that is.
Exactly. And not only that, but now if this newspaper finds another major breach in information security for the state, what's the likelihood of this newspaper going back to the state again and saying, hey, I want to give you a heads up. We found this. You may want to fix it. We'll hold the story. The newspaper's never going to do that again.
No.
The state has completely burned their bridge and their credibility with not only this media outlet, but I'm sure every other media outlet in Missouri because of this. And there's a lot of stories that you want held for 24 hours before they break. So, the state needs a good relationship with the media.
Rob Stutz makes a great point here. He says perhaps the teachers union should sue the state for a violation of Fourth Amendment rights to privacy. I mean, that's the other side of this, is that those teachers ought to be able to complain and have some damages. So
yeah, I mean, especially if anyone can find any indication that their information has been data breached because of this, I mean, there's some serious implications for the state coming out of this.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, I know. I've been following the story now for a day or two because it only broke, I want to say Tuesday. So this is really crazy. The next thing that I think that's absolutely insane happened this morning in Japan. The Prime Minister of Japan has dissolved the parliament with 2 weeks to go until their elections. So now Japan has no parliament whatsoever. And in one aspect, I'm very happy to hear that because I'm a libertarian. And but at the same exact time, you start looking at the fact that now the prime minister is the government and there's no legislative check on him. And now he is given legislative abilities for the next 2 weeks, and his only check is the court system. So the court system has an expanded responsibility now until the new parliament is formed. And this is a new thing in Japan. This has never been done before like this. So it's an interesting situation that the prime minister has basically created himself as a near dictator for the next 2 weeks,
which is interesting. I mean, I haven't read the story, but I mean, how does that even work? Because the prime minister's the prime minister's authority stems from the parliament, you know. So that's confusing.
It is very confusing. It's because there's a mix of parliamentary law and imperial law still standing that it has created this unusual loophole that I don't think any prime minister has ever figured out before until this one. I'm sure in the next legislative session they're going to be closing it. I'm sure of this. This is a one-time only trick that you can pull as a prime minister.
Well, no real government for 2 weeks. That's not all bad.
No, but I mean, if this prime minister wants to do some hanky stuff, you know, I mean, we could see some interesting laws come out of Japan for this one. But, you know, hey, we'll see.
Yeah. Interesting.
Hopefully he'll be, as Plato puts it, as a philosopher king.
That's right.
Yeah, we can hope. Very few philosopher kings, as we've found out through history.
Well, and if you want to talk, you know, Platonic philosophy, I mean, you know, the point was that if you have a king, you may have one really good one, but you know, the chances of that continuing in the current system are next to nothing because, you know, one great king may have a child who's a really lousy king.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you can't count on every king being the philosopher king. So
no.
Okay, that took me back 30 years to when I taught my first ancient political thought. So
yeah,
Plato's Republic.
I do love Plato's Republic. I mean, I've read it several times. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you know what time it is about.
It is, and this week, Washington Weekly PBS News Report did not update their news quiz, so we are back to the New York Times. So we are back to the New York Times for 1 week and 1 week only. So we are 11 questions. Let's see how well we can do. Question 1. Internal Facebook research leaked by a whistleblower found which Facebook-owned app was harmful for many teenagers' mental health. Instagram, Messenger, TikTok, Twitter, or WhatsApp? John, any idea?
All of the above.
I wish all of the above was an option, probably because they would all be all of the above. But if I believe I remember this, and we talked about it last week, it came up in the Washington Weekly quiz as well. I want to say it was Instagram.
Could be.
What I would guess.
I mean, yeah, Facebook owns Instagram. It owns Messenger. They don't own TikTok.
And they don't own Twitter, but I think they also own WhatsApp too, don't they?
I don't think they own WhatsApp.
Okay.
They might. I think they might.
But But Tim and Rob are both voting for Instagram, so our viewers are also saying Instagram sounds to be the most genuine answer here.
Okay.
And they're right. Instagram, with its research, said it made many young female users feel worse about their bodies. It was a bad week for Facebook. The company's apps were offline for hours on Monday, and the whistleblower testified before Congress on Tuesday.
I got a ton of work done that day because all of my messenger stuff quit going off and everything was quiet.
I didn't even notice.
Actually, I did, but I thought it was just a blessing. I mean, I've been trying to unplug a little bit more than I usually do. And this week I was very successful thanks to the Facebook outage. So, yeah. As the U.S. government inched closer to defaulting on its debt this week, Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader, did what? Filibustered a Democratic bill to lift the debt limit, minted a $1 trillion coin, said Democrats should abolish the Senate filibuster to lift the debt ceiling on their own, said he would let Democrats raise the debt limit temporarily, or voted to eliminate the debt limit permanently.
I think it was the filibuster.
I thought they came back and lifted the debt limit temporarily until December.
Well, the debt limit wasn't raised. It was raised, but it's not temporary. They'll have to come back and raise it again. But they raised it enough to go through.
Right. This isn't a fix. It's more of a patch of the dam. But
I feel like well, I thought that there was some talk about the filibuster because they wanted to keep Republicans from having to vote for it.
Right, but I still don't see Mitch McConnell telling Democrats that they should abolish the Senate filibuster.
Yeah, maybe not.
I don't see Mitch McConnell's ever those words coming out of his mouth. I know Biden was thinking about minting a $1 trillion coin, but that wouldn't be something Mitch McConnell could do. I don't believe Mitch McConnell actually did a filibuster this week or last week. So I think the Democrats raised the debt limit temporarily is the only thing. They definitely didn't eliminate the debt limit permanently.
Not yet.
Yeah, Rob's saying that it's a temporary raise. And it is. Rob's got everything right so far.
Well, he's on top of it.
The World Health Organization endorsed the first vaccine for blank, which kills about 500,000 people each year. HIV, influenza, malaria, smallpox, and tuberculosis. We did have this question last week on the Washington Weekly Quiz. So our viewers would definitely know that it is malaria.
Here we go.
It's actually quite amazing. The research that created the malaria vaccine. Now, the malaria vaccine is only about 30% effective. But it is enough, especially for the children of Southeast Asia, that this will make a huge, huge difference. I mean, this is going to be a game changer, even with 30% less deaths every single year, which are predominantly children. And the technology that led to this, actually, a lot of it came from the COVID vaccine. A lot a lot of the technology actually spurned from there. So that's really cool. Which line shows the trend in daily new coronavirus cases in the United States since September 15th? Line A, up sharply. Line B, up slightly. Line C, flat. Or D, sharp decline.
I would take a guess at A since September 15th.
You were saying A.
I would. Well, I didn't think it was that sharp. I was thinking it was B or maybe C, but I don't know.
I was hopeful, and I was thinking it might be D. I mean,
I don't think it's dropped off that much in the last month, but I think it has sort of leveled out. But you might be right. I mean,
hey, I'll take C at this point. I want this over with. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost out of principle, I refuse to say that it's A or B.
Don't want to be that guy.
Right, exactly. I have to be optimistic.
Well,
Rob is saying C as well, and he's had 100% effectivity so far. So I think Laura, you're bolstered in your.
there we go. I feel better.
Yep, exactly. Apple Ducky would like to says D. Stacy says C. So actually, I'm sorry, Rob. I see that you spent 2 weeks fighting Corona. So glad to hear you're better. So.
I've seen several stories in the last couple of days, which are suggesting that maybe this was the last big surge, and that a lot of it's hopeful thinking, I think, right now. But I feel like I know that in here in Nebraska that the numbers kind of peaked out, and now they are going down again.
So are we saying C or D?
Let's say C.
C. Okay, I'll get on board with C.
Oh no, it was D.
It is D.
Good.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. I'm really happy to see that. That makes me happy. The Biden administration said this week that it would spend an additional $1 billion to address a shortage of what? At-home rapid COVID tests, glass vials for COVID vaccines, monoclonal antibody treatments, N95 masks, or ventilators. I seem to think that on my local news, they had talked about federal and state aid going for at-home rapid COVID tests, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I think glass vials for COVID vaccines is ludicrous.
That's what they store most of them in.
Yeah, I know they were talking about the at-home tests.
Yeah, I think it's at-home tests. Yeah, and Rob and Stacy are both saying at-home tests. So
let's go with it.
Yep. And they're right. Rob, you're back. Look at that. With so many bills right now that everything starts with a T, it's kind of nice. I mean, it's scary that you kind of get to the point where talking about $1 billion is nice in comparison to the trillions that government is spending, but $1 billion is still a lot of money. I mean, my God, even on a national level, $1 billion is a lot of money. I mean, granted, the way our government is spending right now, we are spending $560 billion an hour. But, yeah, I mean, so $1 billion is approximately what? a tenth of a second in our government spending. So
It's crazy.
yeah, that's a scary idea. I mean, to me, that is really scary.
You know, it's tough for us to even imagine that kind of money.
Yeah.
That because it's so abstract to to everybody really.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking different numbers. We're spending $560 million a minute, not 560.
That's still quite a bit.
So yeah, that's 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes of government spending right there, not 1/10 of 1 second.
Yeah.
But no,
not yet, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet. I may have just predicted the future. I God hope not. But yeah, no. I mean, that's 2 minutes of government spending right there. Yeah.
What can you even do about it? I mean,
yeah. I mean,
we are dug. We've got a hole dug so deep.
Yeah.
That I don't know how you get out.
The Dutch boy can't put his finger in this dam. I mean, this is so ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah. Perspective.
Yeah.
From Stacy, 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 trillion seconds is 31.5 years. So yeah, I mean there's a big difference between a million and a trillion, but still, I mean those are some heady numbers.
Yeah.
Still some really heady numbers. A pipeline failure on Saturday of last week, not this week, caused at least 126,000 gallons of oil to spill into the ocean, creating a 13-mile oil slick. The number was actually revised today. They're actually thinking it was closer to 25,000 gallons, not 126,000. So there's good news on that front. It's 1/5 of the size that they were initially thinking it was. Where did the spill occur? Prince William Sound, the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of Cape Cod, off the coast of Nova Scotia, or off the coast of Southern California?
Well, Tim says it was Southern California, and I was sick that last week, so I don't know, but I'm guessing Southern California because Tim knows everything.
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
Yeah. And Rob saying SoCal as well, and yeah, it's Southern California. I was actually really happy. Here's a map of it. I was really happy to find out that there were some additional studies and everything, and the initial knee-jerk reaction was the fact that it was going to be 126,000 gallons. Turns out it's much closer to 25,000 gallons. And it's absolutely ridiculous. This oil line, the oil companies didn't want to build it out in the water. They wanted to build it on land. California made them build it out in the water. And the line got damaged by an anchor. So one of the ships waiting, potentially one of the ships that is waiting to come in to port, dropped their anchor supposedly on this pipeline, damaged it, and caused the leak. They don't know which anchor caused the problem, but they're pretty sure that it was an anchor. And the oil company never even wanted to put it out in the water. They wanted it on land, so it was easier to maintain and to monitor. But California told them no, absolutely not. You've got to build it out in the water. And now the California is telling the oil companies, hey, it's your responsibility. You're the dummies that put it out in the water. And the oil companies are pointing right back in California and said, no, you told us we had to. So it's going to become the great finger pointing contest again.
Yeah, California is going to sue them.
Oh yeah. So actually, there's a great question. What is the libertarian solution to oil leaks like this? Yeah, I think it's not legislative, but judicial protection. If you have a stake, if you own beachfront property and you're negatively impacted, you can sue the oil companies. If your businesses, if you're a fisherman and your fishing areas have been negatively impacted by oil leaks, you can sue the oil companies. You're going to start seeing some very large environmental class action suits. We've seen that the EPA is ineffective, or has become ineffective since the 70s. I think judicial is where the solution lies. You look right here in North Carolina, the hog lagoons are perfectly acceptable by EPA standards. And if you don't know what a hog lagoon is, I'm not going to go into the disgusting nature of those things. You can look it up. Google hog lagoon. It's an interesting one. But the EPA says that it's absolutely fine. But people are losing a lot of money in their home value, especially with the expanding pork production in North Carolina. And it was actually the courts that stood up for individual rights and their property value and the negative environmental aspects. And protected the environment on this, and actually came out with a whole bunch of new rules and regulations on what is required to protect the property values of other individuals, and gave these individuals restitution. So I think it's the judicial system that's going to be protecting our environmental from this point forward. What does everyone else think?
Well, I actually love energy solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that there could be a day where we're actually off of oil, or at least at the amount that we have now. Because there's a lot of systems that we can use on the individual level that could replace our water heaters, keep trash out of our landfills, and supply energy to each individual house, building, whatever we have. And I see maybe one day could go the way of the dodo.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great energy solutions out there. And I don't like what Biden is doing right now with forcing offshore wind production. I think offshore wind is phenomenal, by the way. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think telling people where they have to build offshore wind is the right solution either. But
these environmental issues are not unlike some of these infrastructure issues we talked about at the top of the program. They affect a lot of people, everybody, and not just for today, but for generations to come. And so finding the perfect libertarian solution is vexing, and it just depends. I mean, these are the areas where I think easily different libertarians can look at it from a different perspective and come to very different conclusions. So,
and I think it's going to have to be a multi-pronged solution. There's no one solution that's going to actually work 100% of the time. Rob says that he's a Navy vet. He's very nuclear biased. You have several people saying that we can definitely reduce oil, but we'll probably never get off of oil. I think we can. I think there's a couple of things that need to happen. I think we need to greatly improve our battery technology, get away from lithium because we're running out of lithium globally as well. But we can have a long energy conversation on another program. I'm
Make sure
thinking
you
about
invite me to that
kicking
one.
off Liberty's Lantern, and we'll be covering stuff like that.
I think we need one of those cars like they had in Back to the Future, where you pour
Mr. Fusion. Yes.
Well, but yeah, they put the garbage in it or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mr. Fusion.
Yeah.
Mr. Coffee's next invention right there. Yes.
That is totally possible, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
There we go.
Well, Lockheed Martin in Skunk Works has been working on shotgun fusion for the last couple of years, and that program has gotten very hush-hush. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Navy is starting some shotgun fusion systems and stuff like that. But let's get back to the quiz here. According to Netflix, which show is on track to become its most popular original series ever? Emily in Paris, Lupin, Seinfeld, Squid Game, or The Queen's Gambit?
That's definitely Squid Game. They're getting sued.
Yeah. I mean, hey, my local news just this morning was talking about Squid Game as well. It is very interesting. I mean, I have not watched it. I have not seen a trailer even for it. This morning on the news was the first time I've ever heard of Squid Game. But extremely dystopian future of people being hired and killed by game shows is kind of interesting.
It's good. It's interesting.
Okay, I will. When I have a free moment, I will definitely check out Squid Game on your recommendation.
And from a libertarian standpoint, you're like, okay, this is something going on here.
Oh, okay.
So
there's a libertarian theme to it. Okay. From the description that I heard of it, though, that's a little bit scary.
It is. You would have to watch it.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. And this is kind of why we've gone away from the New York Times, is because there's too many entertainment questions usually. Abdul Razak Gurna was born in Zanzibar but now lives in Britain, won a Nobel Prize for his compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism and the fate of the refugee in the Gulf between cultures and continents. Which Nobel did he win? Chemistry, economics, literature, medicine, or peace? I will tell you that it was not economics or peace. So that leaves chemistry, literature, or medicine, which I think now that I've said that clarifies exactly which one it is.
It sure sounds like literature, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I can't. I don't really know what that means. I keep rereading that sentence. It's like, what does this mean? Compassionate.
Yeah, he wrote a novel based on truth regarding the topics of colonialism, and it follows the story of a refugee and how the refugee is shuffled from continent to continent, because basically in the Middle East you have the convergence of three continents: Africa, Europe, and Asia, and the cultures and his fight to retain his culture in the many countries that he basically gets shuffled off to because no one wants to deal with him. It's interesting. It's actually really interesting. I am kind of dismayed. I was following the economics Nobel quite closely because there was a wonderful woman who happens to be trans, who was also a libertarian, who was up for the economics Nobel. Obviously, it was a long shot for her to win, but yeah, she didn't win. But I was following the economics one with my fingers crossed quite a bit. House progressives delayed a vote on an infrastructure bill in an attempt to ensure that a second, larger spending plan that contains much of President Biden's agenda also passes. Who leads the House progressives? Bernie Sanders, L.C. Stefanik, Nancy Pelosi, Pramila Jayapal, Thaddeus Stevens. Some of those people you can cross off the list because they're senators.
Is it L.C. Stefanik? Or else Jayapal, Pramila? I don't know which one, but I don't. It's not Bernie. It's not Nancy.
No.
It's not Thaddeus. I don't believe.
No.
Stefanik sounds familiar, but I haven't paid enough attention to the House progressives to know what. To be
honest, I'm between LC and Pramila as well, but I don't know which one is leading the House progressives right now. John, any idea?
No, I have no idea. I can tell you that we got some new construction coming down in Kernersville, though.
And that's why you're going to be a great alderman for Kernersville, because you know the Kernersville issues and not the national issues, and you don't waste your time with that. Good man. Good man.
Rob says it's Elise Stefanik.
Okay, well, if Rob says Stefanik, I'm okay with Stefanik. Are we going Stefanik?
Yeah, let's do Stefanik. Oh no!
Jayapal. So the Progressive Caucus has wielded its newfound leverage under Jayapal, a third-term representative from Washington. We are planning to move both bills at the same time, but we can't move one without the other, she has said of Biden's agenda. Question 10. Oh, well, do we want to talk about the infrastructure bill going in front of Congress right now?
We obviously haven't been paying enough attention to it to talk intelligently about it.
So basically, it's do we want to spend 1.6 trillion, or do we want to spend 2.1 trillion? And that's really the difference between the two of these bills.
Well, and here's the question. I mean, I'm not anti-infrastructure, but I don't think the feds ought to be paying for the infrastructure.
No.
That should be a state and local, issue. And
Drew brings up a great point. If this was actually focused on infrastructure, it would be worth talking about. But there's so much pork in this. There's healthcare aspects to this bill.
It expands the definition of infrastructure way beyond roads, bridges, and pipes.
Communication, power. This goes so far beyond what infrastructure actually is. It's scary. It's scary. It actually even includes quite a bit of education. And all of this. It's an exceptionally long bill. It's not as bad as the stimulus bills that we saw last year, but it's still well over 2,000 pages. There's forestry in it. Forestry shows up in this as well.
They're going to build new trees.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta build those. You gotta put those trees up so that you've got wood to build houses later.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, and a lot of the things that they're putting into this are quite the stretch to actually be infrastructure. I think this is a massive power reach and power grab by the federal government and redefining infrastructure in a way that it should never, ever, ever, ever be.
That's what we dealt with since the 1800s.
Yeah. Question 10. 2 Russians guided by a professional astronaut arrived at the International Space Station this week to complete a mission that has never before been attempted. What were they there to do? build a zero-gravity swimming pool, film a feature-length movie, perform an unassisted spacewalk to the Chinese space station Tiangtu, raise a child on board, or record the soundtrack for the 3rd season of Succession.
I would take a guess on the spacewalk. I have no idea.
So I'm a space junkie, so I know this answer. I will recuse myself from answering this one. But
Tim says it's the movie. That was going to be my guess.
Rob, Keith, and Tim all say that it's a movie.
That seems reasonable.
And it is. That's exactly correct. They're filming a feature-length movie.
Okay, talking about space, did you watch yesterday, Eric? Did you watch?
Oh, Shatner going up? Absolutely.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. His description of going to space and
the experience.
Yeah, and the experience and all of that. And he's actually promising to write a poem about his experience.
I saw that.
Is quite interesting. We all know that he's a singer-songwriter, poet from, going back many, many years. I did not realize that Shatner was 90, by the way. That actually took me back more than anything else. I cannot believe William Shatner is 90.
Well, you do the math. I mean, when was the first Star Trek?
True. That's true. So yeah.
But he does pretty well for 90. I don't know many 90-year-olds that move as well as he does. So that's impressive.
My father is 82, and I mean, he's been healthy as a horse up until lately. So that's hopefully he's doing that well at 90. Hopefully everything bounces back and he can run rings around William Shatner at that point. Last question. The New York Yankees were knocked out of the Major League Baseball playoffs this week by their biggest rival. Which team beat them? And I think we all know who the biggest rival of the New York Yankees is.
Oh, it's definitely the Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Those darn Toronto Blue Jays. No, it's the Boston Red Sox.
I didn't know that, but I haven't been following baseball.
Well, okay, so I grew up in New York, so maybe that's kind of. I'm not a Yankees fan. I am a diehard Mets fan, but at the same time, hard not to know. At least if you're in New York, that the Red Sox and the Yankees have had an ongoing feud since 1903. Babe Ruth. So yeah.
I like the Royals.
There you go. Hey, the Royals are a good team. I respect them.
Well, they have been in the past. But.
So we scored 9 out of 10. That's close to our recent average. Are you? We got. We did as well as 20% of everyone else. The only 14% of people scored higher than we did. So that's good.
Rob says that I'm biased, I suppose, for liking the Royals. It's just because they're close. I don't really care that much about
we pretty much always support the teams that we grow up near.
Yeah.
But that kind of brings us to the end of our broadcast. John, any parting words, anything that you want to say before we say goodnight?
Really, my biggest kick that I've been on here recently is for libertarians to get out and run locally. Freedom doesn't start from the top and go to the bottom. We got to start from the bottom and go to the top.
Amen.
Absolutely. I totally agree. We need more local candidates around the country. Laura, any parting words?
No, but I agree with John 100%. Run local.
Yep, run local. Also, we've just announced our LNC meeting. Next one is going to be in the beginning of December. Will be held in Boston. So there's a lot of great stuff that we're looking forward. There's going to be more details coming out with that in the future. Also, if you want to get involved with the convention for Reno, Nevada, coming up here next year, if you're looking to volunteer, I encourage you to go to lnc2022.org. .org. I'm going to verify that before. No, .com. I'm sorry, not .org. lnc2022.com. Go on that site. You can volunteer. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, there's still early bird pricing going on. So make sure you buy your tickets as well. Table sales are now open, and so is welcoming committee. Suite sales will be open up soon. Lots of great stuff going on in the party around the country. Also, I know, John, you're in North Carolina. Your website has been scrolling toward at the bottom of the screen for the entire show. But you can also go and support North Carolina at lpnc.org. And that's a great state party to support. So not only can you support John, but you can also support the organization that's going to stand behind John and give him lots of help. So you'd be helping not only John, but several other candidates as well, because there are people running all over North Carolina this year, as well as next year. There's already a lot of races already gearing up. So that would be great. On that note, I've got nothing else. Anyone else? Any parting words of wisdom? Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. You have a great night, and we will see you not next week because we're off, but in 2 weeks from now. That would be October 28th with Spike Cohen is going to be our guest that week. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Until then, we'll see you then, and you have a great time following the news. And this is Libertarians at Large. Good night, everyone.